Okay, we're ready to go. Parshiyos Tazria-Metzorah, Tavshin Gimel. 2 parshas this week. One of the very interesting things, we know that most of the time, Parshas Tazria-Metzorah comes out during Shiur Parshiyos. And of course, as soon as I say that, we know next year, it's a very good chance it will come out before Pesach. But on a standard year, when it isn't a leap year, when there is no extra month of the year, so Parshas Tazria-Metzorah usually comes out in Shiur Parshiyos. And we know Shiur Parshiyos is a time where we know that one should be working on their midas, ben adam lachaveroi. And Parshas Tazria-Metzorah, there were actually 7 reasons brought down why a person would get tzaras. However, the most popular reason, the most famous one, the one that people know most, and actually which may be the most severe avera, is that avera of lashon hara. And the past couple of years we've actually spoken about that inyan of lashon hara. So now this year I just want to move a little bit more into the talking about the tzaras, the negoyim themselves. And one of the very interesting characteristics of a nega is that a nega is not a physical sickness. Although, according to many mefarshim, and it depends how you look at it, whether it comes as a punishment or a reminder or a symbol, whatever it is. However, one thing we know is that a nega is not a physical sickness. And the kohen, so to speak, acts like the doctor over here. The kohen is the person who sees the person who has the nega, and it's interesting to note that the kohen doesn't prescribe any medication for this patient. The kohen's only job is to tell the patient that the patient is that the person who has the nega is tamei. As Chazal tell us, again, the Chazal tell us that it was a spiritual kind of thing, that it came for the avera mostly of lashon hara. The pasuk says, "V'ra'ah hakohen es hanega." The kohen will see the nega. V'hinei mar'ehu amoik min ha'ar. That the way that it's perceived, the way you see it, is that it is deeper than the actual skin of the person. The Nesivos Shalom says what we're saying here is that it's not a nega chitzoni. When the kohen sees the person, it's not just the fact that we need the kohen, and we of course we missed that train. It only went by once tonight, and it doesn't matter what time we start the shiur. It's all the people getting off the train to come to the shiur, so we'll ask them to file in single file. That the nega is omoik min ha'or. It's deeper than the or. What happens? The kohen who has chachma, the kohen who the Torah says the kohen has to be the one to see the person, the kohen is able to see whether it's just a davar gashmi or whether it's amoik min ha'or. There's something deeper. There's something more going on over here. And that thing which is deeper, it's a much deeper kilkul ruchni. And that's why the pasuk uses a lashon zok in the Nesivos Shalom of amoik min ha'or. And in the English language it works out well, where it's deeper than that. There's more to it. There's more than meets the eye. There's something deeper, something more profound going on over here. The tafkid is the kohen. The tafkid that the kohen has is to show this person, give him some kind of way to do tshuva, to come back. The Nesivos Shalom tells us that the Torah, we've said it many times, the Torah is nitzchi. And out of every parsha in the Torah, even though Lamaisa there's no actual negoim today, but the concept of negoim, zok in the Nesivos Shalom, the concept of whatever yid has to live with, that the Torah is chayim, the Torah is alive, and it applies no matter whether we have a Beis HaMikdash or we don't, or whatever period of history we're in, it applies to us too. And let's explain a little bit. The pasuk says, "Adam ki yiyeh ba'or b'sarai." It says it's eis, isapachas, ivaheres. The pasuk at the beginning of the parsha of Negoim, beginning of Parshas Tazria. Most of the times, when referring to a person, when we're talking about a person, the Torah uses, as we'll see in Parshas Achrim Mois coming up a lot, the Torah uses a lashon of ish. Over here, by Negoim, the Torah uses a lashon of Adam. And why is it that the Torah uses this lashon specifically here. Another thing, the Nesivos Shalom asks a question here. Why is it that the Torah tells us that the kohen has to be mitami the person? Rashi says on the pasuk of V'ra'o ha'kohen v'timei oisai that the kohen has to say Tomeata. Xeris HaKosov, the pasuk says, the Torah tells us that the kohen has to say Tomeata. Now we know, when we think about karbonos, what's the duty of a kohen? What is the job of a kohen? By most other things, the kohen on Yom Kippur, by karbonos, the kohen's job usually in Klal Yisrael is to be machaper for people and to help them and to uplift them. Why here do we say that the kohen has to be the one to do the opposite? The kohen has to be the one to break the news. The kohen has to say Tomei Ata. Why is it that over here that job is given to the kohen? And if we to put it in yeshivish jargon, the kohen, without the kohen, there's no chalois tuma over here. The kohen is the one. It doesn't matter what it looks like to you, but until the kohen says Tomei Ata, there's no chalois tuma. So Nesivos Shalom brings down a word from the Noam Elimelech, which he explains the entire theme of what's going on over here. And it's a beautiful word. The pasuk says, like we mentioned, Adam tiyeh ba'or b'sori se'eis oy sapachas oy baheres. Zok the Noam Elimelech. That these three words can allude to something else. When the Torah says se'eis, Zok the Noam Elimelech, it refers to being uplifted. The lashon of se'eis, se'u, can also be, if you have a person, Adam tiyeh ba'or b'sori, you have a person that within himself, he wants to be uplifted. Oy sapachas, sapachas is a lashon of cleaving to. Right? A person wants to be Davuk B'Hashem. So far, a person wants to be uplifted and he wants to be Davuk B'Hashem. Oy Baheres. The third thing the pasuk says, Oy Baheres, and Baheres could mean Boher. A person wants to have light. He wants to have clarity in Avodas Hashem. You have a person that wants to do that. Abba Zokter, the Rebbe of Elimelech, Azoy, he says that there's a chisaron though. The chisaron is what the pasuk continues with. The pasuk says that all these things that he wants to do. You have a person who wants to be Oved Hashem, he wants clarity, he wants to be uplifted in life, he wants to be Davuk B'Hashem, but it's Ba'or B'Soroi. It's surface. It's only in the Chitzonius. A person wants, it's a Eis, it's a Pachas, it's a Baheres. He wants all those things that we could darshan at the pasuk that might be talking about, but it's only Ba'or B'Soroi. It's in the Chitzonius of the person. You do it, you want it to show to other people. He has a problem. So he goes to the Kohen. And the Kohen has to find a remedy to this problem. Because if the person comes to the Kohen with the problem, he has one of these three things. And you have to know that it's a problem. Zok, the Torah is telling you that it's a problem. If we see a person that has this, he has to address this issue. Because the person is not supposed to want to be Oved, not supposed to be Oved Hashem only for public consumption, to show to everybody else. If it's only in the Chitzonius, only in the Or B'Soroi, we have a problem. So Zok the Nesivos Shalom. The reason that the pasuk uses a lashon of Adam here, he says, because Adam is the highest madrega that we talk about when we refer to a person. It is known, we know that there are 4 lashonos that are used when we refer to a person. It's Adam, Gever, Enosh, and Ish. There's 4. But Adam is the highest. The pasuk says, Ki v'tzelem Elokim asa es Adam. When we refer to a person as a tzelem Elokim, then he's called an Adam. Adam is someone who is on a level of being Oved Hashem. In other words, Ish, you have all these other lashonos that's talking about a person. But when a person hits a certain madrega, when he's taka, elevates himself, and he's an Oved Hashem, we use the term Adam. However, now that he's an Adam and he wants to be Oved Hashem, like we said, he has a problem. The problem is that it's all in the Chitzonius. He has a Negat Tzaras. The Yetzer Hara mixes himself. As soon as a person reaches that madrega and he wants to be an Oved Hashem and he has worked on himself enough, like we've said in the past couple of weeks, that's just when the Yetzer Hara wants to step in. And the Yetzer Hara steps in and causes Ba'or B'Soroi Negat Tzaras. He causes that your Avodas Hashem should not be, Avodas Hashem should just be for show. The person's thinking of himself. Even if he's not thinking about other people, he's thinking of himself. He's thinking of, what's my schar going to be in Olam Haba? I want to be Avodas Hashem. I want to be Beser Mensch. But only because schar, what's waiting for me in Olam Haba, and he's on a high madrega of Adam, and he has this nega tzaras. And the Gemara in Masechta Brachos Amud Gimel Amud Beis says that ein divrei Torah miskayim el b'mi shemeimis atzmai olel. And this we said many times there are many drushes on this, but the Nesivos Shalom says it refers to one who takes out, he abolishes, he takes out all the atzmiyas. Misha meimis atzmi olel, that when he's being oived Hashem, it's only lasas nachas ruach Hashem yisbarach. And that's it. He's not doing it for his own reasons, to show to anybody else that he's not doing it. So we ask the question, why over here is it that the Kohen is doing the job? A Kohen was always the person who helps people in Klal Yisrael. The Kohen always uplifted people. Why is it the Kohen's job over here? Zok Nesivos Shalom. The Kohen is doing a favor to the person here. He's doing a tikkun here. The Kohen is helping the person get his kapara. It's a tikkun when the Kohen tells the person, Tomiyata, he's telling him that you can't go on like this. You can't go on being a person that's just for show. The way you act in the street, the way you act in shul, is not the way you act in your house, and the way you act to yourself, to your family, to your wife. That's not the way. If it's all in the chitzonis, the person is just for show. So the Kohen brings that to your attention. Without bringing that to your attention, you can't uphold this title of Adam. That now you're a person on a high madrega already. You want to be that kind of person. You want to be an Oived Hashem. Then you have to listen to the Kohen. You have to understand that you have to work on yourself. Just want to end off with a vart that's actually not from the Nesivos Shalom. A vart that I heard a little while ago. I think it was from Rabbi Fran. And he says, we're getting into these parshas now. We're talking about Tazria-Metzorah, Tzaras. And the pasuk in the psukim in Metzorah talk about other tumas and other things that happen to a person. And the pasuk at the end of the parsha, in Parshas Metzorah, the pasuk says, "V'hizartem es bnei Yisrael mitumasam." You should forewarn, bring to their attention bnei Yisrael about their tumas. And he says, what happens sometimes to a person in life is a person with their children, a person with friends, that many times you'll bring to your children's attention, to someone in the family, you'll bring to their attention something that they might be doing wrong, something that they should really look to help themselves with, or you want to help them out, you want to do something, right? But after you tell them once, twice, maybe you give up. You might give up because, they're not going to listen to me, they're not going to do, so you give up. You don't tell them, you don't lecture them anymore, you don't try to help them out, you don't tell them. He says, "V'hizartem es bnei Yisrael mitumasam." The pasuk continues. Then you have a haftacha. V'lo yamusu b'tumasam. A person has to know that don't give up on people around you. You see somebody that he fell. The person may have fallen madregas, and I'm not saying exactly what he said. I'm adding a little bit I'm not quoting him verbatim, but he says a person, you have somebody that may have fallen a madrega, somebody that you know can be helped by something that you say. If you keep on telling them, don't get frustrated, don't leave them. He says, it's very interesting, he says sometimes when children grow up, so parents tell the children things when they're very young. He said once he heard from a child went and told his Rebbe when he got into his teenage years, he says, as I get older, I see that my parents are getting much smarter. So you understand what's going on over here. It's not that the parents are getting much smarter, it's that you're growing up, and the child is finally understanding that all these years, and all the times that the parents told, and when a child thought and thinks that the parents were being mean, and the parents weren't looking out for the child's best, as you grow older you realize how much grief your parents have saved you from, how much your parents were actually looking out for you, because they kept on telling you over and over and over and badgering you and telling you that you have to do that. So keep it up. Don't give up on anybody. Never say that it's too late for anybody. You have a haftacha that if you keep on going after the person, if you keep his karvas, if you keep close to the person, and you show that you actually care, you have a haftacha that ultimately they're going to listen to you. And you try this, and the Torah is telling you over here that it could work.